next story is about Europe. The European Union has issued an ultimatum of sorts to the US, UK and Turkey. Arms companies from all these countries will be excluded from a new $165 billion EU defense funding initiative unless their home countries sign defense and security agreements with Brussels. Yes, you heard that right. The EU aims to reduce its security dependency on America in its pursuit of a Buy European initiative. On Wednesday, the planned fund for capitals to spend on weapons would only be open to EU defense companies and those from third countries that have signed defense agreements with the bloc. According to a European Commission proposal put forward, it would also exclude any advanced weapon systems upon which a third country had design authority written on it. Restrictions on its construction or use of particular components or control over its eventual use, that would exclude the US Patriot air and missile defense platform, which is manufactured by defense contractor RTX, and other US weapon systems where Washington has restrictions on where they can be used. Now, this comes at a time when Europe is strengthening its defense amid a perceived threat from Russia and doubts about future US protection. Remember, last month, the Trump administration signaled that US security prioritizes lay elsewhere and that its own borders and in Asia, the Trump administration has made it very clear that Europeans need to fend for itself and Ukraine in the future. That as Europe's biggest war since World War II entered its fourth year in Ukraine. Now, under a new strategy, EU member countries will be urged to buy much of their weapons in Europe and work mostly with European suppliers. And in some cases, with EU to help cut prices and speed up orders. They should only buy equipment from abroad when costs, performance or supply delays make it preferable. Now, this policy is a victory for France as well as other countries in Europe that have demanded a Buy European approach to the continent's defense investment push. This amid fears over the long-term dependability or reliance of the US as a defense partner and supplier triggered by Trump. Now, at least 65% of the cost of the goods would need to be spent in the EU, Norway and Ukraine. The remaining could be spent on goods from third countries that have signed a security pact. The EU's chief diplomat, Kaja Kallas, and I quote here, "We have this opportunity to really build up the European defense industry. In crisis, your military really needs to have free hands." Now, the UK has lobbied her to be included in this initiative, especially given its key role in a European coalition of the willing, which is aimed at strengthening Europe's defense capabilities. UK defense companies, including Base Systems and Babcock International, are deeply integrated into the defense industry of EU, such as Italy and Sweden. If third countries such as the UK, US and Turkey want to participate in this initiative, they would now need to sign a defense and security partnership with the EU. As per reports, talks between London and Brussels on such a pact have begun, but have become embroiled in demands for a larger EU-UK agreement that would also include controversial issues such as fishing rights and migration. But as far as the exclusion of the UK and Turkey is concerned, it will create big headaches for big European defense companies that have close ties to the suppliers. In those markets, the move is also expected to cause major worry for UK's defense sector. One senior UK defense industry insider said it was a major concern. Clearly, it's not the joint and unified Europe, at least as far as Europe and Britain is concerned. Is China preparing for a war in space? Do we have to prepare for an off-planet conflict next? We ask this because of a claim made by a top US Space Force official. General Michel Goutlin, the Vice Chief of Space Operations, told a conference in Washington that China has been observed conducting coordinated maneuvers with its satellites, describing it as dogfighting in space. To put it simply, he says that Chinese satellites are practicing combat in space. According to him, if this is indeed the case, then China's capability gap with the US has just narrowed. And what does that mean for the future of space dominance? According to General Goutlin, the US Space Force has identified 5 different objects in space maneuvering in and around each other with astonishing synchronicity and control. He said, and I'm quoting him, "That's what we call dogfighting in space. They are practicing tactics, techniques and procedures to conduct on-orbit operations from one satellite to another," unquote. While the top US general did not name the actors involved in these maneuvers, it was later confirmed that the satellites in question were indeed Chinese, specifically 3 Xi'an 240 experimental satellites and 2 Shijian 605A-B experimental space objects. They reportedly carried out a series of proximity operations in lower Earth orbit. In 2024, General Goutlin had said that the Chinese Shijian 605 group launched in 2021 is meant to detect the space environment and test new technologies. Meanwhile, the Xi'an 24C satellite launched 2 years later focused on space science and technology experiments. Now, the next question that comes to mind is what could be the agenda behind these advanced operations? Remember, a dogfight typically involves fighter jets engaged in tight aerial combat, executing intricate maneuvers. But in space, which is a vacuum, movement means something radically different. The absence of atmosphere and friction means that spacecraft must expel mass to create thrust to make swift movements. And to achieve such a capability is incredibly costly and challenging. And so, if China has been able to achieve this, it would be a big feat. This is also the first time that multiple Chinese satellites have reportedly been observed carrying out synchronized movements. Yes, China has carried out many rendezvous proximity operations, where spacecraft move closer to each other and interact in space. There have also been reports of Chinese satellites approaching and also stalking American space assets. It begs the question, have we underestimated China's ambition in space? What is really happening behind these seemingly harmless activities? It's hard to know at this point of time. What is certain is that, according to US Space Force, China and Russia are rapidly closing the gap and ending and also rather endangering US space superiority. General Goutlin referred an example from 2019 when a Russian satellite released a smaller spacecraft to allegedly spy on an American probe. He further enlisted other growing threats to US space platforms, including satellites equipped with robotic arms capable of capturing or holding another satellite hostage. Well, these abilities that Chinese vehicles have demonstrated on multiple occasions. If these claims are indeed true, how long until we face direct confrontation in the stars? In the age of space as a frontier for exploration transforming into one of tactical warfare, we don't have the answers to these questions right now. What we do know is that the stakes have never been higher. One war front to another, our next story brings you the latest from the deadly Israeli military offensive on Gaza, in which the IDF has unleashed relentless airstrikes and expanded ground operations, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. The fragile calm that had settled under a temporary truce has now been shattered, replaced by the deafening sounds of bombings and the cries of the wounded. According to Gaza's health ministry, at least 500 Palestinians have been killed in the past 3 days, just 3 days in Gaza. Rescue workers in Khan Yunis reported that a pre-dawn strike claimed the lives of at least 10 people, including families who had sought refuge in what they believed to be a safe area.
At approximately 2:30 a.m., the brutal Israeli strike on this house took place. Some 7 people were sleeping in it, safe and sound, according to what the Israeli army had classified as a safe area. This area was a displacement area some time ago. Of course, they were all martyred, as you know. We took them out in pieces.
On the ground, Israeli troops have pushed deeper into central and southern Gaza with an aim of establishing what it claims a security buffer. Earlier today, the IDF reportedly regained control of the 4-kilometer-wide Netzarim corridor. It's a key corridor that, in effect, separates northern Gaza from the south. Israel's operations, meanwhile, have forced thousands of Palestinians to flee for their lives. Roads leading out of northern Gaza are now filled with desperate families, all trying to escape the relentless assault carried out by Israel.
We are suffering from displacement. It hasn't been 2 months since we went back, living in a tent in Al Salam neighborhood. Now we are displaced again.
But for many Palestinians, even escape has become impossible. Earlier today, Israeli forces blocked Gaza's main north to south road, effectively trapping thousands of Gazans in a war zone. In a post on X, Israeli army spokesperson Aveche Adrai said that for safety reasons, movement on Gaza's Salah al-Din road is now completely prohibited. Now, the 45-kilometer stretch is Gaza's most important road, spanning the entire length of the territory from north to south. So the message from IDF seems to be clear: there is no safe place in Gaza. In a video address, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, issued what he called, and I'm quoting here, final warning for the return of hostages and the removal of Hamas.
The advice of the US President Donald Trump: return the hostages and get rid of Hamas, and will open new opportunities, including leaving to other places in the world for whoever wants to. The alternative is complete destruction and devastation.
Hamas, meanwhile, said that the Israeli army's ground operation constitutes a serious violation of the ceasefire agreement, adding that it rejects Israel's demand to revise the existing ceasefire terms. That's what Hamas has clearly said. In the latest, Hamas has fired multiple rockets at Tel Aviv. In the latest escalation of violence, Israeli military confirmed that 3 long-range rockets were launched from the southern Gaza Strip at central Israel. According to the IDF, one of the rockets was intercepted by air defenses, while the other 2 struck open areas. There are no immediate reports of injuries in the attack. The Al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas, claimed the responsibility for the attack, saying it bombed Tel Aviv with a barrage of M90 rockets in response to massacres against civilians. Well, thousands of demonstrators flooded the streets of Jerusalem, demanding an end to the bombings, aiming their frustration directly at the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whom they accused of prioritizing military escalation over the safe return of the hostages.
We're very, very worried that our country is becoming a dictatorship, and we think our government is not serving the people of Israel and is not thinking of the important things that have to happen here. And they've kidnapped our country. They're abandoning our hostages. They're neglecting all the important things for this country.
Before this latest escalation, the death toll in Gaza had already surpassed 48,000. Now, with the renewed assault, that number is rising by the hour. The question we ask: how much more destruction will Gaza endure? Did the CIA lie about the U.S. President John F. Kennedy's assassin? We ask this question because the US government has just released over 1,000 files fully unredacted, shedding new light on the assassination that took place in 1963. These documents posted on the US National Archives website were declassified under an executive order by US President Donald Trump. More than 31,000 pages have been made public, reigniting debates over one of history's most infamous assassinations. For decades, conspiracy theories have swirled. Was JFK killed by multiple shooters? Did the mafia or the Soviet Union have any role in JFK's killing? Now, new evidence suggests that the CIA may have purposely misled the public about the man officially blamed for Kennedy's death. Well, we are talking about Lee Harvey Oswald. November 22nd, 1963, JFK traveled to Texas with First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy. Shots rang out from the Texas school book depot and the president was dead. Police arrested Oswald, a 24-year-old former Marine who had positioned himself on the 6th floor of the building. Just 2 days later, nightclub owner Jack Ruby gunned Oswald down during a jail transfer, silencing him forever. The Warren Commission, created to probe Kennedy's assassination, concluded that Oswald acted alone. But many, including Kennedy's own family, have long questioned that conclusion. In a 2023 interview, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claimed, and I'm quoting here, there was overwhelming evidence that the CIA was involved in his uncle's murder. He went further, alleging that a former CIA director fired by Kennedy helped cover up the agency's role while serving on the Warren Commission. And now, newly released files add further to this mystery. A 1991 CIA memo reveals that a Soviet KGB officer had reviewed 5 thick volumes of files on Oswald. According to the officer, Oswald was never a KGB agent, and in fact he was a poor marksman when he practiced shooting in the Soviet Union. If true, this reportedly contradicts the official story that Oswald was a skilled sniper who fired the shots that day in Texas at the US president. Another document shows the CIA was tracking an unnamed American communist in Mexico, a description that reportedly matches Oswald. The agency had eyes on Soviet and Cuban activities there, raising serious questions. Did the CIA intercept intelligence about Oswald's movement but fail to act? Or worse, did they already know what was coming? More files detail Oswald's stay in Finland in 1959 and his contacts with the Soviet consulate. Other documents confirm he tried to secure visas to both the Soviet Union and Cuba while in Mexico City. That's just weeks before Kennedy's assassination. While another memo dated the day after JFK's killing reveals details about an intercepted phone call. Oswald is heard speaking with a KGB officer at the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. According to reports, these newly declassified records challenge the official narrative, raising many questions. Number one, did the CIA know more than they admitted? Number two, did the CIA mislead the public about Oswald's abilities? Number three, and most importantly, did they ignore or suppress key intelligence, lying to millions of Americans for more than 6 decades? Explosions light up the night sky over Yemen. Air raid sirens wail across Israel. US President Donald Trump has issued a chilling ultimatum. Total destruction for the Houthis. As the US intensifies its bombing campaign, the Houthis have fired yet another missile at Israel, sending millions of civilians racing for shelter. The war in West Asia is spiraling into dangerous new territory. Our next report telling you more.
American warplanes are relentlessly pounding Houthi-controlled areas in Yemen. Fighter jets scream overhead, unleashing precision strikes, targeting training camps, weapons depots and command centers. The US says the offensive is meant to cripple the Iran-backed group's ability to disrupt commercial shipping in the Red Sea. On the ground, Sana'a burns. Entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Rescue workers are digging through debris, searching for survivors.
American, Zionist, British, the triad of evil. We will not submit, we will not tire, and we will not give up. We stand with our leader, Sayyid Abdul Malik Badruddin al-Houthi.
Posting on his Truth Social platform, Donald Trump issued his starkest warning yet to Yemen's Houthis rebels, threatening total annihilation. Claiming the US has inflicted tremendous damage, Trump vows that the Houthi rebels will be completely wiped out if their attacks continue. The US president bluntly warns that Iran must stop supplying the Houthis immediately. But the Houthis remain unshaken. The Israel Defense Forces say they intercepted a missile fired from Yemen before it entered Israeli airspace. The Iran-backed group promptly claimed responsibility, marking its second strike against Israel this week. The incoming projectile triggered alert sirens across central Israel at 4 a.m., forcing thousands to seek emergency shelter. Trump warns that he will hold Iran responsible for any attacks carried out by the Houthis, who are part of Iran's axis of resistance against the US and Israel. Iran has condemned the latest US strikes on Yemen and calls them, along with Israel's deadly strikes on Gaza, war crimes.
The events in Yemen are the same. This attack on the people of Yemen, on Yemeni civilians, is also a crime that must be stopped.
In a dangerous cycle of escalation that shows no signs of abating, as the American forces continue to target Yemen with waves of strikes. Since Saturday, the Houthis have vowed to escalate their attacks, particularly against Israel.
Our top story on Gravitas tonight. In a stunning escalation, Ukraine launched a high-risk drone attack deep inside Russia, striking the Engels airbase. The stakes have been risen now. The airbase is deep inside Russian territory and home to Vladimir Putin's prized fleet of nuclear-capable bombers. Ukraine unleashed a swarm of deadly drones. The massive explosion sent a dark mushroom cloud into the sky. The massive blast shook the entire region, forcing Russian authorities to declare a state of emergency. Plumes of thick black smoke flowed over the inferno at the airfield, stretching for several kilometers. Watch another CCTV footage that shows the building's roof blown off due to the impact of a powerful blast. Well, located nearly 700 kilometers from the front lines, Engels Airbase is one of Russia's most strategically important military hubs. And the attack by Ukraine marks one of the boldest moves by Kiev, proving its ability to breach Russia's heavily fortified interior. The Engels Airbase houses two 160 and two 95 bombers that are essential for Russia's long-range nuclear deterrence and missile strikes on Ukraine. Well, besides being a major base for Russia, Engels too, along with holding nuclear-capable bombers, is also believed to store deadly Kh-101 and Kh-55 types missiles, among other weapons. The airbase is used by Russian fighter jets to launch devastating strikes on Ukraine. But apart from all of this, the crown jewel of the airbase is the Tu-160. It is also known as the Blackjack or White Swan. This is a supersonic variable sweep-wing bomber manufactured by the Soviet Union in the 1980s. It is one of the largest and heaviest combat aircraft ever built. The attack comes after Russia unleashed one of the most devastating strikes on Ukraine. The images on your screens are from the central Ukrainian city of Krapyovintysky. Ukraine says its air defenses intercepted 75 of the 171 drones, while electronic warfare measures caused 63 drones to deviate from their path. Now, these fresh strikes and counter-strikes come at a time when both Russia and Ukraine have agreed to stop targeting each other's energy infrastructure. How and when will that pause come into effect? That remains unclear. Moscow says Russian and US officials will hold talks on Ukraine in Saudi Arabia on Monday. Donald Trump spoke to both Russia's Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Zelensky this week. The US is also due to hold talks with Kiev in the coming few days. India's Ministry of Defence has approved a major leap forward in strengthening the country's military capabilities. The Defence Acquisition Council, led by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, has given the green light to 8 key proposals totaling a staggering rupees 54,000 crore. That's around 23 billion US dollars. Among the major highlights is the upgrade of the T-90 tanks. These third-generation battle tanks manufactured by Russia to replace the older T-72 series will now feature 1,350 horsepower engines, up from the current 1,000 horsepower. This enhancement is expected to dramatically improve their performance, especially in high-altitude terrains like Ladakh and Sikkim, where thin air often compromises engine efficiency. The tank's increased power-to-weight ratio will also strengthen its battlefield mobility, making them faster and more agile in challenging conditions. According to reports, the upgraded engines will also enhance its ability to maneuver across mountains and riverine regions, ensuring better acceleration, climbing capacity, and overall operational effectiveness. Faster repositioning during combat means reduced exposure to enemy fire, giving Indian forces a crucial edge in high-stakes scenarios. Another major approval is for airborne early warning and control aircraft systems for the Indian Air Force. Currently, the Air Force operates 2 such platforms known as Netra. These systems, often described as game changers in modern warfare, serves as airborne radars capable of detecting and tracking aircraft, ships, vehicles, missiles. And according to reports, they not only provide real-time command and control, but also enhance the effectiveness of other weapon systems in combat. Well, for the Indian Navy, the Council has sanctioned the procurement of Varunastra torpedoes designed specifically for anti-submarine warfare. These heavyweight torpedoes can be deployed against enemy submarines in both shallow and deep waters. Launched from specialized ships, they add a formidable layer of protection to India's maritime defense. From tanks to torpedoes and cutting-edge surveillance, India is not just reinforcing its military might, but also signaling its readiness to meet emerging security challenges. Yesterday, Ukraine took a bold step and struck Russia's Engels airbase, home to Vladimir Putin's prize fleet of nuclear-capable strategic bombers. And tonight in Gravitas, we will tell you all the details of its immediate aftermath. Russia has launched a full-scale revenge operation, unleashing relentless strikes on Ukrainian territories, with its forces launching precision strikes on Ukrainian military airfields, command posts, drone storage sites, ammunition-laden military trains and troop concentrations across a staggering 153 areas. And that has not just nullified Ukraine's daring operation, but also made its attack perhaps appear impulsive and reckless. Just take a look at these visuals from Ukraine's port city of Odessa. Russian drone strikes have left a trail of destruction. The city's skyline glows ominously orange, with rows of buildings engulfed in flames. Key infrastructure, residential homes and commercial hubs lie in ruins. Firefighters can be seen struggling to control the blaze. At least 3 civilians have reportedly been injured in this attack, which unfolded as Czech President Petr Pavel visited the city to meet Ukrainian officials. Further east, the situation grows even more grim. In Zaporizhia, the city's governor reported a series of Russian strikes, including a guided bomb attack that injured at least 5 civilians. Similar to Odessa, emergency responders in Zaporizhia are now racing against time to contain the fallout. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian military claimed a massive Russian strike on a gas pumping station in Zudza in Russia's Kursk region. And visuals on your screens right now show a huge ball of fire, signifying the extent of the damage inflicted by the strike. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that Kiev purposely blew up the gas station, further claiming that the Ukrainian army had been using the facility as a logistics hub and blew it up as a part of Ukraine's retreat from the Kursk area. Ukraine's Air Force claimed that they shot down 114 out of 214 drones launched by Russia in the overnight attack. But the damage inflicted clearly remains catastrophic. On the other end, the Russian Ministry of Defense said that its air defense systems shot down 5 guided bombs, 1 US-made HIMARS missiles and 225 Ukrainian drones, further demonstrating the high stakes intensity of this conflict. Meanwhile, on the battleground, Russia has unleashed its heavy flamethrower system. It's called Tostochka, aiming to destroy Ukrainian strongholds in eastern Ukraine, operated almost entirely by automated systems. The TOS-2 is a devastating weapon capable of destroying Ukrainian strongholds from 12 kilometers away. Just another reminder of the technological edge that Russia continues to deploy on the battlefield. Now, all these developments also come amidst a crucial time in the 3-year-long war. Russia and US are set to hold ceasefire talks in Saudi Arabia next week. And speaking at a news conference in Oslo, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky confirmed that US officials would meet separately with both Ukrainian experts and Russian representatives next Monday. As violence intensifies on the battlefield, one question looms: can diplomacy bring any breakthrough in this brutal war? With flames engulfing Ukrainian cities and peace talks edging closer, the stakes have never been higher. China is becoming more belligerent. Its military activities, especially on the high seas, are alarming its neighbors. And now, Philippines wants India to join the newly formed Quad alliance to deter the world's largest navy. and that's in the South China Sea. Our next report takes a closer look at the emerging rivalry in the Indian Ocean region.
Beijing is expanding. Warships are prowling, submarines are cruising. Military bases are multiplying. China is pushing its might into the Indian Ocean, challenging regional stability. This is not just maritime posturing, it's a calculated move to dominate one of the world's most strategic waterways. Chinese naval activity in the South China Sea and Indian Ocean is at an all-time high. Warships, spy vessels and submarines are routinely deployed under the guise of anti-piracy operations. But their true mission is clear: surveillance, influence and military control. The Philippines and its allies are now trying to expand the Quad grouping of nations to include India and South Korea to counter China in the Indo-Pacific region. The chief of the Philippines Armed Forces during a conclave in New Delhi urged India to join the grouping. The Chinese Navy has also permanently deployed 7 to 8 naval assets in the Indian Ocean region. China's expansion is not limited to naval patrols. It is building a network of military-friendly ports and bases encircling India. Hambantota in Sri Lanka, Gwadar in Pakistan and Djibouti in Africa are just the beginning. The pattern is unmistakable. China is creating permanent footholds in the region. Speaking in New Delhi on the final day of the Raisina dialogue, Indian Navy chief said Chinese dual-purpose civilian ships are closely monitored and that they are suspected of performing military roles. India is countering China's aggression with enhanced naval deployments, strategic alliances and military investments. The Indian Navy is ramping up patrols. It has deployed submarines, destroyers and a frigate. India commissioned its first home-built aircraft carrier INS Vikrant in 2022 to counter regional rival China's much more extensive and growing fleet. New naval bases in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands serve as a forward defense. The message is clear: India will not let China dominate the Indian Ocean without a fight. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
It's not just their defense budgets that are being strengthened. The threat of Russia and America's pressure on Europe to defend itself is now being felt in various ways. Poland and the Baltic states are fortifying NATO's eastern front against Russia. According to the latest reports, Poland may convert its eastern border with Russia into a mini field. This as it withdraws from the Ottawa Convention, which bans anti-personnel landmines. Warsaw is citing the threat of Russian aggression as the reason for this move. Here's why this matters. Poland's decision to withdraw from the treaty highlights growing concerns in Europe about Russian aggression. And so this is just one of the many recent steps taken by Warsaw to prepare for a possible conflict with Moscow. Well, Warsaw is gearing up for World War III by planning to distribute survival guides by the end of the year. It has also been constructing an East Shield, which has been described by Polish lawmakers as the largest operation to strengthen Poland's eastern border and NATO's eastern flank since 1945. In an interview with Polish news outlet on March 18th, when asked about Poland's decision to terminate the treaty, the deputy head of Poland's Ministry of National Defense said, and I quote, "We have no choice. So the situation on the border is serious." I'm referring to the Polish-Belarusian and Polish-Russian borders. This will be one of the elements of the East Shield. He said that Warsaw has concerns that neighboring Belarus will be used by Russia to unleash an attack on Poland. He said that while Poland currently does not have anti-personnel mines, they do have the capabilities to manufacture them. But Poland is not alone. Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia have announced that they would withdraw from the treaty banning landmines soon. Well, the treaty that bans landmines is the Ottawa Treaty. It is an international agreement that was signed in 1997 and has been ratified by more than 160 nations. In withdrawing from it, Poland and the Baltic countries can begin stockpiling and using landmines for the first time in nearly 30 years. In a joint statement, the country's defense ministry said that military threats to NATO member states bordering Russia and Belarus have majorly increased, and so they are prepared to defend their security needs. Poland's decision to begin using landmines comes in the wake of the attacks between Russia and Ukraine amid peace negotiations. Even though Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky have agreed to a ceasefire on attacks against energy infrastructure, Kiev and Moscow have accused each other of violating the temporary truce. How will then Russia respond to Poland's decision to resume using landmines? Well, that we'll have to wait and watch. An AI startup in Sweden has unveiled a robotic dog named Luna. And Luna is no ordinary robotic dog. It has a digital nervous system. Yes, the robotic dog has a brain of its own. Unlike traditional AI, which follows pre-programmed instructions or relies on massive data sets, Luna can reportedly learn and adapt just like real animals, including humans. Reportedly, a major breakthrough in AI where machines don't just follow commands but actively make decisions and take action towards specific goals. So Luna, she just does not intake information and data. It experiences the world, learns from it and evolves. Instead of programming Luna with a vast AI model, the company is taking a different approach. A professional dog trainer will teach Luna to walk just like they would with a real puppy to help create a neural system that mimics how brains intake information and refine movement over time. Just imagine that for a second. An AI system that learns the way living beings do. If Luna proves that machines can develop intelligence through direct experience, the next frontier could be even bigger. Imagine AI-powered robots exploring space, diving into the ocean's unexplored depths, or responding to disaster zones. With human-like adaptability in all these situations. Sending machines like Luna to Mars to construct habitats. Right now, Luna is still at the starting line. It can stand and move, but its real test will come as it interacts with the world. And also intakes information and also continuously improves. Could this be the future of AI? Luna may just be the first one to show us.